How's everyone? This is the take-home test worked out. Remember, you can use this take-home test. Remember, you can use this take-home test on the test. So put any notes that you need to on this take-home test. For each of the following, give the inequality in an interval notation. Okay, so it looks like it's solid dot at 3, so it's going to go from 3. So we're going to have a hard bracket on the 3 and going to infinity. Next problem, we have an open dot at -5, so it's parenthesis from -5 to infinity. This one, it's at 6, and this is going to -infinity, so we're going to go from -infinity, that comes first, to 6, and the 6 has a hard bracket. For number 4, we go between -1 and 4, so soft bracket at -1, and goes to 4, hard bracket. I'm going to erase these so this doesn't keep moving on me. So I can move down the screen. Hope you guys are having a nice day so far. For problem number 5, we need 2 inequalities. So this first one goes from -infinity to -4, soft bracket, and then it goes from hard bracket 7 to infinity. Okay, because remember the infinities are outside of here. We want to go ahead and graph this. So I'm going to be an open dot at 2 and shading this way. For this one, I'm going to be a solid dot at 5 because it's a square bracket, and that goes to infinity. This one is going to go from 0, circle at the 0 because it's a parenthesis, to infinity. And then 6 is going to be a solid dot going to infinity that way. All right, each of these we want to solve it. So I'm going to divide both sides by -2 first. That's going to flip our sign over, and that's going to give me -7. Okay, so we're going to go from -7, open dot, going to infinity, -infinity actually. So our answer, our interval notation is -infinity to -7. The -7 has a parenthesis because we had an open dot. And this is our interval notation. For number 10, I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides, so I get x is less than or equal to 7. So I'm going to put a solid dot on the 7, and I'm going to shade to -infinity. So our interval notation, reading it left to right, will go from -infinity to 7, hard bracket. Remember, the infinities always have a soft bracket or a parenthesis. For number 11, I want to get the y's on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 3y from both sides first. That's going to give me y minus 2 is greater than or equal to -6. I'm going to add 2 now. -6 plus 2, so add 2 is -4. So I have a solid dot at -4. It goes to the right to infinity. Our interval notation will be a square bracket at -4. Sometimes we call a square bracket a hard bracket to infinity. Infinity always has a parenthesis. For number 12, we can multiply everything if you'd like by 4 first. That way those cancel out. So I get x plus 4, because 4 times 1 is 4, is greater than 4 times 2, which is 8. Subtract 4 from both sides. So x is greater than 4. That's going to be an open dot at the 4, shading forever to infinity. So we'll have a parenthesis. We call a parenthesis a soft bracket sometimes, from 4 to infinity. The infinity always has a parenthesis or a soft bracket. For number 13, I want to flip the whole problem over first. Oops, something happened here. For number 10, I want to flip the whole thing over first. The sign is going to flip over because I've flip-flopped in the problem. distribute the 2 over the parentheses, so I get 2 times 4x is 8, 2 times negative 7 is negative 14, that's greater than 10. Add 14 to both sides, so 10 plus 14 is 24. Divide both sides by 8, so x is greater than 3. Open dot at the 3, going to the right, so that goes to infinity. So it's going to be a parenthesis or a soft bracket from 3 to infinity, and the infinity always has a parenthesis or a soft bracket. Problem number 14, let's distribute negative 3 over the parentheses. Combine our like terms. So 5 minus 18 is going to give me negative 13. Add 13 to both sides. So 5 plus 13 is 8. Divide both sides by negative 3. So x sign flips over because I divided by a negative. That's going to give me negative 6 because 18 divided by negative 3 is negative 6. So negative 6 is right here. It's going to be a solid dot. It's going to shade forever this way. That goes to negative infinity. So I go from negative infinity to negative 6. This is going to have a square bracket because we had the equal sign. We had the solid dot. Both of those mean that information. Okay, for number 15, what we want to do is, remember it's going to be an and problem when it's put together. So I'm going to break this into 2 problems. The middle is going to go with both. Let's go ahead and flip this one over because I want the x on the right side, so the sign will flip over as well. I'm going to add 8. So negative 2 plus 8 is going to give me 6. Divide each side by 2, so x is greater than 3. I'm going to add 8 to both sides on this one. That's going to give me 20 because 8 plus 12 is 20. Divide by 2. X is less than or equal to 10. So I have an open dot at the 3, and I have an open dot at the 10. And this technically goes this way, this goes this way. So here is our shaded region. Our, and that's a solid dot on the 10, I'm sorry, because we had an equal sign on that. So our interval notation, go from left to right, will be parenthesis 3, because it's an open dot, to 10. 10 is going to have a square bracket or a hard bracket because it is a solid dot and also had an equal sign. Okay, problem number 16. I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So 11 minus 8 is 3. Divide both sides by 6, so I get 3 over 6. Reduce that fraction. 3 goes into itself once, 3 goes into 6 twice. Okay, so let's focus on where we're going to put that 1/2. That 1/2 is like right here. It's like a solid dot right there. So that's going to go that way. And then on my other equation, I'm going to add 18 to both sides first, which is going to give me 24. Divide both sides by 2, so that's going to give me 12. Okay, so 12 is off the sheet a little bit, so I'm going to put like a 12 over here. That's going to be an open dot going this way. So remember, this is going this way, this is going this way. This is an OR problem, so it's going opposite. So I'm going to go from negative infinity to half, and that's going to be a square bracket. Then I'm going to put a parenthesis at the 12, and that goes to infinity. Problem number 17, this is an AND problem. We're looking for the overlap. So this is going to be an open dot at the 5 going this way. On the 2, it's going to be an open dot, or it's going to be a solid dot because you have an equal sign. And so we're just worried about the shaded region in between. So it's going to be a square bracket of the 2 to 5, and the 5 has a parenthesis. This is an OR problem. So I have an open dot at the 0. And at the negative 5, I'm going to have a solid dot. Now remember, OR means wherever the line exists, even the overlap. So this one, because they overlap each other, and there's even they cross over each other, there's overlap in between, this answer is going to go from negative infinity to positive infinity. Remember, these problems won't be in the exact order they are on the test, so you might have to look around this packet to get the ones to match up to be similar to the ones on the test. Number 19, I want to add 12 to both sides. So that's going to be 16. Divide each side by 8, so x is less than 2. So that's going to be an open dot at the 2. And remember, this is an AND problem. I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So I'm going to get to 5. So I'm going to have a solid dot here. Is there any overlap on this problem? There's no overlap. So that means there's no solution to this problem. Yes, you can graph it, but there's no solution. We don't have an overlap. If this was an OR problem, that's different. And means we have to have overlap. For problem number 20, what we can do is we can divide both sides by 3 first. So I'm going to get x minus 1 is less than 9 divided by 3 is 3. Add 1 to both sides, so that's 4. So I have an open dot at the 4, and that's going this way. This is an OR problem, so remember that. I'm going to add 17 to both sides. So I get 2x is less than or equal to negative 13 plus 17 on a calculator is going to give you 4. Divide both sides by 4. That's going to give you a 2. So it's going to be a solid dot going this way. Now, this is an OR problem. So wherever our graph is coming from the left, so it's negative infinity, all the way to the very last part of where the graph is. It doesn't have to worry about overlap or anything, but it's all the way up till 4. And that's going to be a soft bracket. Okay, we ignore this one in this context because it's OR. If this was an AND problem, it would have to go up to negative 2. For problem 21, we want to find the error. So let's see where they made the error. Oh, you know what? 5x plus 3x should be 8x. So this is where my error is. We want to make sure you circle the error. There will be guaranteed an error on the test. So let's make this correct. 5x plus 3x is 8x plus 6 is greater than negative 20. Subtract 6 from both sides. That's going to give me negative 26. Divide both sides by 8. So you could leave it like this. You could leave it like this, or you could reduce it. It's up to you. I won't take points off if you didn't reduce it, or if you made it a decimal. It's okay if you went negative 26 divided by 8 or negative 13 divided by 4. It's the same decimal answer. Let's take a look at this next problem. Oh, I see the error. Okay, you're supposed to distribute the negative both. They did here, the negative 8's right. That's supposed to be a positive 2. So let's make it correct. So 10. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Negative 2 times negative x is positive 2x. That's where they made the error on this problem. These are like terms, so go ahead and combine them together. And then subtract 2 from both sides. And 6 minus 2 is 4. Divide each side by 2. X is greater than 2. It looks like they have these in an interval notation as well. So this top one should have been negative 13 fourths to infinity, and this one should have been 2 to infinity. So remember, on the test, you can use this packet. Put whatever notes you need on this packet. Put any of the work that I showed on this packet. Ask me questions if you have questions on the packet. But don't forget to bring the packet for Tuesday. That's when we have our test. It's our chapter test, okay? Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Take care of one another.